What's up? You are looking live at Darrell Hartley of Better Call Darrell. We're high atop Radiotherapy Network, and I'm glad that you came today and see what's going on. Hey, it's really nice to have people be in a position to say hello to you. And as much as I love to share, I really love receiving things from each of you too. So come on to the show and watch it all live, and let's see what we got going. And I tell you, in sharing things, the great thing about doing this live is I get to really interact with you. Today, I'm going to talk about how I wanted to start doing this and the origins, the backstory, the ethos of who Darrell is and such. But I want to give you some information. You can reach me at 469 289 5157. 469 289 5157. You can email me at returntoduty@bettercalldarrell.com. That's returntoduty@bettercalldarrell.com. You can also go to the website www.bettercalldarrell.com. www.bettercalldarrell.com. Today's show is near and dear to my heart for a few reasons. And if you look around, the front of the camera angles, and you see all the hats and such, these are all the organizations that I work with. Except for the Cowboys, I just root for them. Last time I checked, Jerry Jones didn't send me a check or hasn't one. But Mr. Jones, you can donate to our program, the Better Call Darrell podcast, if you surely want to. Being here puts me in an optimum position to succeed and demonstrate to each of you that you can always do something when you're doing something better than you were doing previously. Hear what I said? You can always do something when you're doing something better than you were doing previously. So let's get right to it. Once again, you can reach me at area code 469 557 2127. 469 557 2127. You also can email me at returntoduty@bettercalldarrell.com. That's returntoduty@bettercalldarrell.com. Web address is area code www.bettercalldarrell.com. www.bettercalldarrell.com. And you can share this page on my page or your page or anybody else's page, because we want to get the word out that for people who are in dire need to return to duty, I am the person that can assist them. As a Department of Transportation substance abuse professional, I can assist anyone who needs to return to duty. For those people also in the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, I can assist you in returning to duty too. Because as a substance abuse professional for the DOT, I'm also a substance abuse expert for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So let's get on into it. So please, right now, would you please share our program, the Better Call Darrell podcast. When I was a child, and I still have this 10-year-old boy running around in, but I will get to him. When I was a child, I used to call into the radio stations, and I would win. So I'm born and raised East St. Louis, Illinois. So in East St. Louis, there was a radio station called WESL. And in St. Louis, there were two others that I would win on frequently. There was KKSS, which became Magic 108 FM. And then there was KATZ Radio, 1600 on your dial, AM. And they had the likes of Doug Eason, Chris Hall, J.J. Jackson, and a few others, right, that will come to mind at some point. But one of my favorite DJs on KATZ was J.J. Jackson. J.J. Jackson. And I would win frequently on his show. Why? Because I would get out of school, I would go home, I'd do my chores, right? I'd do my homework and clean up for dinner, and he'd be in doing drive time as we know it today. So when I would win on his show, I would have to go down to the radio station. Same way at WSL, same way at KKSS, same way at, which became Magic 108. So one day I went down to the radio station to get, one of my monthly or weekly wins, and they would give you a slip of paper. And the slip of paper would say what you won, an album, a cassette, 8-track tape. I didn't want 8-track tape because over time what happens with 8-track tape, they would crack on the side and they wouldn't play properly. So I'd either want a cassette or an album. Albums were still my thing. And I'm going to give you the whole setup. I'm going to break it all down to you. And you're only going to get this type of love from Darrell Hartley. So went to the radio station one day. And I'm at the receptionist window. And I'm talking to her. Now, remember, I'm a child. I'm 11. This is 1974. And the lady looks at me, and I look at her. She said, "You're Darrell Hartley, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, I am." Now, remember, I'm a child. But I'm a child who had an adult voice. Voice, 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 right? And volts came out because I was always excited when I was speaking to people. It wasn't hyperactivity. It wasn't ADD. It's just, hey, I thought I was one of the guys on the radio. So I'm at the receptionist window. And she asked me who I was and asked me, was I Darrell Hartley? And I said, yes, I was. And she said, "You're always winning down here." I said, hey, And so what they didn't know, it says game, recognize game. Game is to be sold, not told. Well, I'm going to tell you what I would do. So the number was 1-314-969-1600, right? But what the general audience didn't know is there were 4 of the numbers. There was 1-601-02-304. So I would call all of them, and that's how I would win. And so they didn't know this. And guess what? I didn't have a push-button phone. I had one of those Princess phones, so you had to dial to get in, right? So after I would win on the various shows, normally it was J.J. Jackson's show that I would win. Sometimes I would win in the morning. I went on Doug Eason's show. Doug Eason was not only a DJ, but he was the general manager and president of KATZ Radio. So when I went down to pick up my winnings that day, unbeknownst to me was this figure coming down the hall. Short gentleman, light skin as we would call him, curly hair, red, white, and blue suspenders, with a T-shirt on. And so he's walking towards me. And I recognized who he was. It was J.J. Jackson. He says, "You're Darrell Hartley, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, I am." And as the receptionist had said moments ago, said, "You're always winning on this show." It's a method to this. Now remember, I'm 11. Now this went on for years, 11, 12, 13. I think the last time I ever won anything on the radio, whether it be KATZ, WSL, or KKSS, or Magic 108, I was like 14. Right? I don't know, I got bored. But I'm going to tell you why. So they gave me my slip, but JJ said, "Hey, why don't you give him 5 more? And if you got any T-shirts or any other things back there, just give those to him too, because I'm glad to meet you." I said, "JJ, I want to be a DJ just like you." And he looked at me as I'm looking at you. You. I'm talking to you. As he said that, he said, "You want to go to journalism school for 4 years? And then you got to go to communication school for 8. I just thought all you had to do was just do what I'm doing right now, just talk. No, you have to do more than that. And my countenance fell. My head dropped. He said, "If you want to do that, then you can become a DJ or more." And he said, "It was nice to meet you, Darrell." And he shook my hand. And as a child, I hugged him. And he returned the hug. And the receptionist said, "Oh, that's so sweet," but she didn't take a photo of it, so I don't have that image for you. So he walked away. I had my 6 slips, and I went down to Peaches Records. So when you would win, you would go down to either Peaches Records or you would go to the tape and record room. So I went down to Peaches Records and picked up that day the Dramatics, Teddy Pendergrass. He was still with Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Earth, Wind, and Fire, the Isley Brothers, the Emotions, and I think it was the Ramsey Lewis album, Sun Goddess. So, went and picked those up, got back on the bus, had to take the bus down to KTZ, had to take the bus to Peaches Records, had to take the bus from Peaches Records back to Pagedale, Missouri. That's where I lived at the time. So when I came home, it was like, I had the mother load. And not the Emotions, it was Al Green I had. I apologize. So my mother took 2 of the albums and she went in the living room and started, what could I do? That's where I lived. That was my mother. So I'm at home marveling over what just happened. And I'm still thinking about how am I going to go to college for 8 years to become a radio personality. Maybe television, but a radio personality. So what I end up doing is not thinking about going to communication school or journalism school, because inside my bedroom was KDCH FM 98.6. I remember I'm a child. So when there would be drama in my household, I would close that door and I would be in my own little world. My own little world was KDCH 98.6, and I was D. Cortez in the nighttime. In my room was my radio station, my imaginary radio station. But for me, it was real because I worked also raking grass and shoveling snow and starting people's cars and getting the ice off the windshields, and had a paper route all year round. I worked with the city. You're supposed to be at least 12, but I was working there at 11. So I was making money, and I was also contributing to the household. Why? Because we needed to be able to do that, to make ends meet in our home, to eat and keep the lights on, the gas, and those types of things. I never saw most of my money, but what I did see was yard sales all the time, except in the wintertime, all the time on our street and streets over. And so I was able to get speakers and turntables and reel-to-reels and 8-track tapes and cassette players. Not the cassette players with the component set, but like cassette players where you record somebody's voice and such. So what I would end up doing is that, because I wanted my own commercials, right? So I would record commercials off the radio. So when the DJ would say back in seconds, I would hit record and play and record a whole sequence of commercials, right? So, and then I would put another tape in and do the other thing. So they wouldn't be the same commercials over and over and over. They may be out of sequence, but they weren't the same commercials over and over and over. And I was probably the first person, maybe from those people who are in New York, but I was probably the first person as a kid who had milk crates in his room. That I had a milk crate full of 45s that a lot of people had just given to me, and I had a milk crate of LPs, oldies, so on and so forth. But I played them. And I began to have this knack of knowing what to play. But let me tell you what the room looked like. So I slept in a twin bed. My twin bed was against the wall as you came into my door. And in this twin bed, right, I had 3 different types of blankets that I liked. One was the Dallas Cowboys, although I lived in the St. Louis area. It was the Dallas Cowboys. I had a St. Louis Cardinals baseball blanket. And I also had a Los Angeles Lakers blanket. I had a St. Louis Blues one, but for whatever reason, it just didn't look right on the bed, so I would use it as additional padding for the bed. So when you came into KDCH 98.6 FM, it had that on the wall, on the door. And it had it on the wall inside too. I had Paper Shop, and what Paper Shop was, I had people in the class who could draw. So they would make those things for me, and I had them around. So when you come in, I had those things that make noise, the bangles or whatever they're called. You walk through those. You say, well, how'd you get those? It's because I guess some people didn't want to do the psychedelic thing anymore, but I liked them. So I had that, and then there was the door, and then you walk through the door, there was the glow-in-the-dark posters of the king, the queen, and a panther. Then there was on the other side, there was the king, the queen, and the tiger. And there was a king, a queen, and a lion. In between those was a poster of Frida Payne, Farrah Fawcett, Charlie's Angels, Tamara Dobson, who was Cleopatra Jones, for those of you back in the day, Pam Grier, and then Pam Grier as Foxy Brown, Pam Grier as Friday Foster, Pam Grier as Coffee. And then there was also the Honey poster from the Ohio Players. And if any of you guys are my age, I'm 57. Any of you guys are my age or younger, you still know that poster, Honey, from the Ohio Players. And last, but certainly not least, the last poster was a poster of a warrior with a bow and arrow. He's black. Bow and arrow, spear, darts, sword, knives, and he had, I think, a panther next to him. Now, when you turn the lights out, everything glowed except for the honey girl, but you knew she was there. And the posters, they didn't glow either, but you know they were there. And so I also had a Papasan chair in the room. So that was my bed. There was the Papasan chair. There was the speakers. There was the reel-to-reel. There was the cassette players. There was the two turntables. There were the crates left to right. One had albums and cassettes in it. The other one had 45s just lined up on either side. And I had the turntables, right? So the turntables were Pioneers. I had no idea what a Pioneer was, but the Pioneer turntables, right? So I had the Pioneer turntables. I had the Akai reel-to-reel. I had the famous speakers. I'm trying to think of it. And then I had they were Sony speakers. Thank you. I'm just my mind. I told you I got a 10-year-old boy running around him right now. So, and then I didn't have anything but Koss headphones, but they were good enough, right? So I had 2 pair of those. Why? Because when I plugged into the system, I had a splitter. Now you guys would say, this guy's 11 years old. The reason why I know all of this stuff, because when I used to go to people's homes with my parents or walking down the street, I would see what people had. So I had this receiver also, Marantz stereo, and I would plug that in. So everything was running out of there. The speakers, right? But what I ended up having to do over time, I had to replace that with 2 of them because I wanted to have quadraphonic sound in the bedroom. Okay. My bedroom became so famous that my mother and her cronies, they would be over there doing their thing sometime, and I would hear, "Hey, baby, how you doing?" They playing records like it's their radio station. What could I say? I lived there. So that's what my bedroom looked like. It was spotless. It was always clean. I was always looking to see what more I could do. Now, remember, I'm a child, right? And with children, and any of us can remember this, we have vivid imaginations, right? So when you go down to the radio station and look at the DJs, he's behind a booth, right? It's glass or acrylic or whatever. And I said, man, how could I get some glass? You can't get glass in your bedroom. So I still had the dream. And many times in my household, there was chaos, there was mayhem, there was dysfunction, there was toxicity daily. And that was my relief to being able to go into my room. And sometimes the chaos, the mayhem, the dysfunction, and the toxicity spilled over into my room. Right? I'm like, of all places, why y'all want to, why y'all want to cut up in here? But that's how it was in those days. So over time, um, my dream became apparent in one instant. So when I got into junior high school in Normandy, Missouri, they had something called film and arts. And in the film and arts, they had a little radio station. Now, you couldn't transmit it any further than 1 mile outside, but we had to do an audition. Guess who was on the radio station? I was on the radio station, right? And so years later, I think I was 35, 36. So there is a place in Huntington Beach, California called ARB. And it's a radio school. And I went and applied. And I was approved. Now, this is why I was happy. Because when I was approved, in my mind, because they hadn't told me, financial aid, they hadn't told me that I wasn't eligible because of some financial thing with the government. I'm explaining this to you because I was already, there was 16 weeks, I was at week 12. And every week, a radio personality would come in and they would basically tell you how well you did. They'd grade you, right? And I had straight A's. And someone told me off the record, we could hire you right now because your voice. Y'all love this voice, don't you? So I got called into the office one Friday afternoon. I just got through splicing my stuff for the commercials. I just got through done with my show. I was here, man. And they called me in and said that I would have to be suspended from school because my financial came back and I owed. And I said to them, how is that possible? I did everything I was supposed to do. I gave them the telephone numbers. I gave them the contact person. I had a BlackBerry at that time. So I had everything right there. And basically they do like DOT does. They didn't care. They told me to make the calls and see what happened. And I made the calls. I said, well, wait a minute. I want to stay right here and make these calls because I'm weeks away from graduating. And someone has already told me off the record that they could get me in the radio like that. And the person who was the president of the school told me, Darrell, that's true. But until you get your financial aid situated, you're going to be suspended from school. I was sad. I cried. I felt as though there is just one more thing in my life that I just hadn't taken care of. I thought I took care of business, but the business didn't take care of itself. And for those people who are listening, those people who are looking at me, you understand exactly what I'm telling you. It's just one more thing you got to deal with. You think you're cruising down the freeway, but somewhere at the intersection now it becomes crowded and you can't get off. It's the same way when you fail a drug and alcohol drug screen. It's one more thing that you have to address. So, I wasn't able to complete radio school. But even now, when I have spare time in my home, I don't use the turntables or the cassette decks or the reel-to-reels. I have 2 computers. And I have them set up to have a radio show on Spotify. And on Spotify, it's like it's old times, you know, and I get to play what I want to play. I got my own playlist. One's called D. Cortez. I have, and one of them is for gospel, and then one of them is for R&B and soul. And I do it because I have fun. You may not be on the air, You may not be on television. You may not be the personality that other people are, but you utilize your personality to get your point across. And I am hopeful and prayerful today. I am getting my personality points over to you, because it doesn't matter where you were, it's where you are. It doesn't matter where you are, it's where you're going. It doesn't matter where you're going, it's when you get there, what are you prepared to do? So I saw this ad on Facebook, and it was about the radiotherapy network. I'd seen it more than 6 or 7 times, but on the 7th time, 7 is my favorite number if you didn't know. So 037, then 56, then 63. Sound like lotto, huh? But it's not. It's just something. And I called this gentleman by the name Terrence J, as he's known. And I said, "Hi, Terrence, this is Chaplain Darrell Hartley. How are you?" And we just started talking like we've known each other for decades. And he invited me to come down to the studio. And I did. And we talked more, and we talked some more, and we kept talking. And so we ended up having a schedule of events. And that's why you've seen me more than a few times, because I bought into the process and the product. The process is believing that you can do this. And the product is presenting yourself in such a manner that people will ask, who is Better Call Darrell? And each week I'm attempting to demonstrate to you who I am, what my origin is, why I'm here, right? And it's much more than returning people to duty also. It's allowing you to become familiar with me. So if you ever see me at Trader Joe's or World Market, I'm there a lot. I love going in there. There's some smell, and it attracts me. It's like, I don't know. I love going there. And right on the toll road, right? It's right off the toll. It's Trader Joe's and there's World Market. And you can go in there and buy everything. And sometimes I'm going in and buy too much, but that's another talk show for another time. What are you prepared to do today? Are you prepared to see your dreams become reality? Are you looking where Better Call Darrell is? And my telephone number is 469-557-2127, 469-557-2127. Website is BetterCallDarrell.com, BetterCallDarrell.com. And my email address is returntoduty@BetterCallDarrell.com, returntoduty@BetterCallDarrell.com. Not only do I provide DOT and NRC return to duty opportunities, but I do private practice addictions counseling, substance abuse, misuse and use counseling, chemical dependency counseling, and bringing you into a position, whether it's individual, family, or group, to let you know that you're not alone. I felt so alone when I was not able to graduate from that radio school. I felt nobody cared, and it appeared that nobody did care. But here we are years later, years removed, and guess what? I have a microphone right here, I have a camera right there, I have a computer right here, I have my hats. You're just doing it. This is my personality, exuding confidence that you may continue to do the same thing too. I'm going to introduce in the following weeks a mailbag. I have a P.O. box established that you can write and you can send mail, and I can read it on the air. There may be some people that are in the correction system that have heard about this program down the line, and you can give them the information that they could write in, and I can talk to them. There may be people who are in corrections. There may be people in law enforcement. There may be people in state and legislation. All types of things that I can assist with in bridging the gap for recidivism. And I think the big deal for you and I is I can do it. You know how I can do it? Because I care about you. I don't care about you because there's some income derived. I don't care about you because, you have something to say and I don't, or I have something to say and you don't. I care about you because I'm supposed to. Because not only I'm an addictions counselor, I'll say to you again, I'm a chaplain. So God's work is always being done, right? God wants you to live up to what he wants you to live out. God expects more from us than we could ever expect from ourselves. So, demonstrating and providing a message of hope for each of you is something that I want to be able to do. Every family has something that's going on that they need to address. And because I'm a counselor, I can assist you in doing that. There are over 1.5 million people who have DOT related incidents and cannot return to duty. And the big deal of why they can't return to duty is because they haven't attempted to do so. They have no idea of how to return to duty. They've heard stories, they've gone to this place and to that place, and all of it was unsuccessful. I want to bring in the people who desire to be successful in this, that they'll know when they return to duty, wherever that may be. And sometimes the employer wants them to return to duty, but they won't follow through. Sometimes they'll find a job, but they won't follow through. So let me recap what I said last week in the return to duty process. But before I do that, let me just finish up with the radio process. So when I'm sitting here in front of a microphone, well, actually to the right here, but you can hear me, and I have the camera on me, right? And it says BetterCallDarrell.com, DOT, SAP, NRCSA, right? That's me. It's me. It's not a collection of people, places, and things. It's me. You know why I'm happy to tell you that? Because when I am assigned an individual to return to duty, that individual, male, female, receives my best. Because I would hope that somebody, if it were me, they would give me their best. They will provide their best services. And the reason I can do that is because I take my time. Because most people don't know what they need until they sit before you. When you sit before me and you give me your scenario of why you're sitting here, I understand why you need to return to duty. But I'll also caution you and tell you that whatever story you're telling me, it has to be the truth. It can't be your truth, it has to be the truth. The truth not only makes you free, it sets you free. When you tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you said. Remember that. When you tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you said, right? So today, because I didn't have that opportunity to finish radio school with 4 weeks remaining, I'm living it out right now. I'm living the dream right now. And maybe after I watch the Lakers beat on the Celtics tonight, I'll live it out for at least an hour on the 2 turntables, my computers. So whatever dream and aspiration you have, pursue it. Don't let anyone anywhere tell you what you can't do, because they haven't done it. Would you expect someone who's not an accountant to tell you what your finances are? Probably not. And even though it might have worked for Uncle and Auntie a long time, maybe they didn't get the best dividends when they filed their taxes. Maybe they didn't get the best, they didn't make the right choices when they chose to use QuickBooks. I mean, would you take your car to, your friend who's not actually a mechanic? Would you go get your hair done in the back where they frying fish and chicken, where they need to go get their hours, right? You gonna keep going to them, or you gonna go to professional people? You go to a professional person because they have sweat, blood, tears, and paid the price to become who they are. Wouldn't you rather pay your money to people who are experts in what they do as opposed to people who are suspect in what they do? I'm just telling you, because that's what people do. Now, that's your money. You do what you want with it. But for my money, I need to have somebody to holler at if something goes wrong. I'm just saying. And because if you hire me, you got somebody to holler at. You won't holler at me because it'll be done right the first time. But if I ever slip, I skin my knee, guess what? We're going to make it right, because that's how we are supposed to work with each other. No matter your ethnicity, No matter where you've been, where you done, how you did it. When you connect yourself with Better Call Darrell, you'll know you're where you're supposed to be. Now, last week we talked about the return to duty process. And here's the quick review. Because what I like to do each week is give a quick review towards the end of the show, the program. Higher top, radiotherapy. You know that? I'm high top. We right here, man. We floating and we rolling. That's what we're doing. So when you find a substance abuse professional with the Department of Transportation, you know, you're talking to the person on the phone, or it might be a Zoom call, it might be a Skype call, it might be a FaceTime call, but you connect yourself with the person. And then you tell the substance abuse professional, the SAP, what happened, because he'll ask, I always ask, tell me what happened. So you tell me what happened. And within 15 seconds of you telling me what happened, I already know what to do. I'm just telling you. Because normally it's like the book of Luke. It's immediate, right? It's, we getting right to it, right? So once they tell me that, I'll kindly stop them and say, I know exactly what we need to do. I'm going to send you your information so you can fill it out. And then when we meet in person, I'll already have it, and I'll be able to complete everything, and then we'll get you set up in the clearinghouse. If this is an FMCSA person, a truck driver, anyone with a DOT designation who actually drives a vehicle, they come in and see me face-to-face. FAA, they come in and see me face-to-face. Coast Guard, they come in and see me face-to-face. Oil and gas, they come and see me face-to-face. Why is face-to-face? Because I need to know if you are under the influence of mind-altering substances or drugs, alcohol. And incidentally, alcohol is a drug. So once I can ascertain what that is, marijuana stays in the system 13 to 35 days. So if it's marijuana, we need to know how to get that out of your system so you can go back to duty with a clean drug screen. So as we close today, the last pieces to that is getting you assigned into the clearinghouse. That is the FMCSA clearinghouse, Federal Motor Carriers Administration. They're connected to the Department of Transportation. And you'd be surprised of all the people who are connected to the Department of Transportation. Even the FBI and the CIA and people like that, their vehicles are Department of Transportation. Okay. You fail a drug or alcohol screening, you have to see a SAP. If you don't see the SAP, it doesn't work, because the SAP is the gateway to return to public safety. And she is also the gateway of public safety. Without the SAP, it doesn't work. I don't care who tells you otherwise, it does not work. There's no appeals process in the Department of Transportation Return to Duty program. If you fail, you need to fix it. If you don't fix it, you can't work. So with all the information that you're armed with, what are you prepared to do? You. I'm talking to you. What are you prepared to do? If I were you, and I'm not, but if I were you, I'd be prepared to return to duty. I'd be prepared to return to duty because that's my livelihood. That's my livelihood because I don't want to work down at Kroger's. I want to ride the truck. I want to get back in that rig and do the things that I know I'm supposed to do. And it also means that I don't want to be slamming power drinks while I'm driving either, because there are other people on the road. Just because you didn't get adequate sleep and you know you're only supposed to be in that truck 11 hours a day, and you know you need to go drop that load at the location, but you got to go through the weigh station first. You got to take care of yourself better. I only talk this way to you because I love and care about you. If people don't love and care about you, they always got their hands out for you. So I thank you for watching the Better Call Darrell podcast today. The number to reach me is area code 469-557-2127. That's 469-557-2127. Website, www.bettercalldarrell.com, www.bettercalldarrell.com. Email is returntoduty@bettercalldarrell.com. That's returntoduty@bettercalldarrell.com. I will see you next week for an awesome program. We are here every Thursday from 3 o'clock Central Time until 4 o'clock Central Time. If there's a day that I have to do something else, because life happens when you're doing other things, it will probably be on a Friday, same time, 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Please share this program to your page and to mine, and I am hopeful and prayerful to see you again next time. Blessings to you and your family and your friends. Have an enjoyable day. And again, I'm here for you. When others aren't, I am. Blessings.